As opportunity increased, so did expectations. Those who worked and paid for the nation wanted a say in the way it was run. A conflict was building between the small group of Meiji leaders and those who wanted democracy and a constitution. "50 miles from Tokyo, in a small mountain village, lies a key. Professor Daikichi Irokawa thinks some farmers worked hard because for the first time they believed they could have a say in running the country. Irokawa's proof is an old village storehouse stuffed with the dreams of the new middle class. Inside this storehouse, Irokawa discovered something that demolished the accepted version of Japanese history. It was a people's constitution, written by a group of middle-class farmers. It proved for the first time that modern Japan was not invented by a few samurai. In early Meiji, people all over Japan were thinking about how to build a new nation.
This attic was covered with about 200 books, from this shelf to this shelf. Books you wouldn't expect to find in a 19th century Japanese farmhouse. Rousseau's The Social Contract, and books by Spencer, Locke, and John Stuart Mill. Of course, there were Chinese and Japanese books as well. Up here on this shelf, I found the Constitution, wrapped up in a Japanese handkerchief. Nobody had imagined anything like this existed. And who wrote this draft? About 30 young men of the village. They were farmers, mostly in their 20s and 30s, and there was not a single samurai among them.
150 articles were devoted to civil rights, and the power of sovereignty was vested in the people, not the monarch.
When most people think about the history of that time, all they think about is how Japan's leaders tried to modernize from above, down onto the people, trying to limit freedom and equality. But in response to that, the documents I found in that warehouse showed that the Japanese people were trying to modernize from the bottom up, trying to work towards greater democracy and greater freedom.
Since Irokawa's discovery, more village constitutions have been unearthed all over Japan. Proof that by the late 1870s, democratic ideas were sweeping the countryside. Pressure was building on the Meiji leaders to open up the government.
It's in this context that, without doubt, the most important of these government leaders, Ito Hirobumi, entrusts himself, he wrote his own orders and put the emperor's seals on them, to write a constitution. That he buys off the opposition by promising them that within a decade there will be an assembly of elected representatives of the people. Ito's problem then is to give them what he's promised, but to give away as little as he possibly can. Above all, not to give them genuine democracy. By this time, Ito has discovered his idol, Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor, the man who has unified Germany in 1870 and has put together a peculiar form of government. It's a government in which neither the parliament nor the king actually exercises real authority over the imperial bureaucracy. The bureaucracy basically does what it wants to do, and it does so in the name of national welfare, of strengthening the state.
Ito took the Prussian constitution and adapted it to the Japanese political stage. In Bunraku, Japan's classical puppet theater, the puppet handlers are in full view. But dressed in black, they seem to fade away behind the colorful puppets. In the same way, Ito and the oligarchs seemed to disappear behind the gaudy symbols of a new parliament and constitution. Politicians came and went, but Ito and the oligarchs stayed in place, discreet, but at center stage, guiding the action.
Major funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB project and by the Ford Foundation. Additional funding was provided by the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Arthur Vining Davis Foundations, and others.